they're doing the best they can
noise.
to just Manos Grande, just the problems into a
Why would you make it wider?
But here's the thing, though. Like, in the process of doing that, like, cool shit still happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like
See, Westworld doesn't concern itself with being good. It has jokes.
It has, yeah.
It sure doesn't. That is a humorless program.
The latest episode in particular, and it feels like a bunch of the season 2 in general is doing fan service. Is the best way I can describe it.
That is not. When I watched that first season, I did not expect this to be a series that even had that idea in it.
Exactly.
But
right?
is it fan service in universe, or is it fan service to the people that are actually watching it?
Fan service in universe.
Okay.
And it's like that's the best way to describe it, I feel, because it's like it's not like the first season is really good because it's spending its time trying to ask subtle questions.
It's a really, how do I put this? It's, what is it, 10 episodes?
Well,
But
okay.
The first season.
Yeah.
But it feels super long.
It does.
Like it is. There's a lot of really slow shit.
The last episode, if I didn't watch it, but I just know this, the last episode was a movie.
Yeah.
It was an
Yeah,
hour
yeah,
and a
yeah.
half. I remember reading somewhere.
So the one of the best ways to I think put it in context is the first episode of the first season.
Mm-hmm.
The stinger of that episode
It was great.
is the most. It's a gesture.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Do you remember what I'm talking about? Like,
No, I didn't watch all of the first season.
oh, okay.
No,
Did you watch the first episode?
Yes.
It's
Do you remember the last thing in the first episode?
No, I don't.
Okay. At this point, I don't
Yeah,
mind
fine.
just
Yeah,
saying
fine. Go
it's a
ahead.
single moment.
Mm-hmm.
A fly flies and lands on someone.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
and it's like, oh, what?
Right? That and then it's like it's just a little, that's all that happens, and then you go, oh, it leaves you going interesting because
It's also a really creepy shot.
but it implies a lot, and there's a lot of thought going into such a small little
You're
thing.
like, ooh, where's this story gonna go?
Subtlety,
you know.
subtlety, and then Jonathan Nolan takes that and carries it all the way through to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And season 2, he's a lot less involved in the writing. I can see his name. I went to check it. He's behind like 2 of the 5 episodes so far, I think. And it's not that at all, and it's not handling anything in that subtle way. It's just being much more brash, loud, rah, and it's like the setup between where the plot had to go was going to become a louder, more pointed action story, but they left interesting questions on the table, and now instead of answering them, they're kind of just rolling off, or the cat's just pushing it off slowly until it crashes on the floor.
There was a feeling that I got watching the last episode of the first season of Westworld in which, before obvious loose threads started to manifest, and it actually looked like things were going to resolve and then have one big open question that would just stay open because that would be the end. And for some reason, I'm like, oh, is this going to be a mini series? And then you get to the last half hour and just like loose end. And like
the season finale of the first season as well. While not going into detail, I'll just say like it introduces things that make you go, oh, whoa, what, right? Because that's what a season finale does when it wants to hook your balls and pull you along to get re-upped,
tether you,
right? And so it goes, what, and like those, like, holy shit, what is that things? Now the second season is starting to like explore them, but or at least introduce them, but there's not as much depth to them as focusing on the central plot of the initial story. There's just these little like fan service things that they drop in, and they make you go, "Oh fuck, that's cool," but what else?
So
you know,
there's obviously every story's got its parts, right? You have your theme, you have your character, you have your plot, right? And you have your setting, right? The first season was near overwhelmingly like setting and theme instead of character-based or plot-based. And what I'm hearing from you now is that the second season is now like overwhelmingly like plot or action or
not overwhelmingly.
even?
It is majority It is majority. There's action and new setting, and then you go, oh wow, new setting, because
that setting that we wanted.
I'm curious.
That one, great.
You know, I'm wow. Okay, huh? I was curious to see where the rest of this like
what the deal with that shit was. Yeah, okay.
And so like that has a level of interest behind it. But then once you're there, it's like, okay, but what else are we doing? Are we going back to those like developing questions about AI? Are we going back to those like, you know, those David Cage become human questions?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Are we going back to that moment where a fly lands on someone, or are we kind of just gonna like?
Has there been a single
pull a machine gun out?
Has there been a single
and walk forward while we use it
in this new season that has the same, not even as good, but has the same tone or feeling as What Door? Because that's the best moment in Westworld.
There's something approaching that happens that's good. But it's good and bad at the same time, because it's
that sounds really good.
And this is why I tweeted out the fact that I'm like
that's awful,
right? Like when you have like you introduce like a Black Mirror type premise in a way where you go, oh, that's a fun thought experiment, that's some brain candy, right? But also, it's like if you follow through on this interesting idea, like it's an interesting idea to introduce, but then if you follow through on it, it becomes a crutch for lazy writing, and I'm worried that it'll become a crutch for lazy writing.
What if,
you know, and
what if humans were the robots the whole time?
You know, what if the interesting question of like two sides that are both right, that are fighting each other?
Yeah.
What if a sudden third party were to exist, and then both parties could turn and go, oh, that though.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the interesting complexities of our dynamics and our conflict.
Yeah.
We can just look at that. That's not what I'm saying is happening, but I'm saying that's an example of how it would be like shitty to ignore an interesting conversation between two people by bringing in Hitler. And just going like,
it's the
fuck that old conversation.
So what you're
there's Hitler.
So what you're saying is Freddy and Jason are fighting, right? And you're like, oh man, I wonder who's gonna win, Freddy versus Jason. Oh, this is gonna be so exciting. And then G.I. Joe shows up, and then they decide to fight G.I. Joe, and you're like, but no, I wanted to know who was gonna win between Freddy and Jason. I don't want to see a team up.
That can work, but it has the third party better fucking like. If it's Freddy versus Jason, Ash from Evil Dead needs to show up. And then you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Because it thematically works.
Yeah.
But if it's like a third party, like you're saying, like you're describing, it's like, yeah, that sounds messy.
I'm reserving final judgment till the end of the season. But I'm commenting on where we're at right now, and like what you've been forced to swallow at this point. There are problems.
Yeah.
There's some fun stuff too, and they can still write themselves out of some of those problems. But there's some of them but not all of them.
I have a stupid question that is not as stupid as it appears, but bear with me. Is Anthony Hopkins in this season as an actor?
Did he get paid? Did he get paid for something?
He might have.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
That's a hard to answer anyway.
Obviously, because that first season rode on his coattails for a while.
Just swerve off of that entirely.
Stop thinking about it.
The what I was gonna say is there is an interesting problem too that has I haven't seen in a long time in any media where you know, okay, so you might have heard about
this look on your.
You might have heard about part 5 of JoJo a little bit, right?
Yeah,
a couple things.
I've heard a thing.
And one of the funniest parts about JoJo part 5 is there is literally a character that is so powerful that they have to just be written out of the story.
Yeah, it's what, Purple Haze Man?
Don't worry about it, because some people still haven't,
whatever.
You know, but like there's a character that's just like, nah, that's too good. That solves the problem.
I accidentally overwrote this.
Yeah, and so Westworld has a little bit of that problem where it's like there's someone
that's so powerful.
Someone needs nerfing, but then they kind of only realized at the last second that they needed to nerf this character, and so they started nerfing the character.
That was a problem in the later seasons.
Oh,
but then
okay, I know what you're.
But then as they started nerfing the character, they were burfing them at the same time.
They were burfing?
Buff nerf.
But that's not a word.
It is a word.
You made it.
Killer Instinct. Go look it up.
What, really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
And so they started burfing this character, and it just gets ugly as you're watching them scramble to like create problems for someone that's too strong.
There was a character in season 1 that was starting to be established as having no limits. So I assume you're saying they had to have limits put on them, but it doesn't.
Otherwise, what is conflict, right?
Oh, because I remember thinking, like, what if that character just starts walking around like Charlie or Akuma or Oro?
What is conflict when you are like top tier? And the answer is bad writing.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So this seems really cool. Let's put it in.
They fix Buffett.
You want to think about it?
If the
just make the character wear weighted clothing the entire season.
No, that's not the problem with this one.
Season one could have literally closed itself off.
Yeah,
it could have. But anyway, reserve judgment till the end, but definitely weaker so far.
So you're
and again, like the other things, any more detail I go into is going to start giving you ideas.
So you're saying they put the handcuffs on Cody, but it made Cody even stronger.
Oh god,
it makes him more
no.
It does because it makes him more intimidating.
It was no. So you had the handcuffs on, right?
Yeah.
And then you took one off, and the other one's on, and you're like, look, but he has one handcuff off, and you're like, but what's the difference between not having any handcuffs on or having it on one arm? Your arms are still free.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Your arms are still free. And you're like, no, but he still has it hanging from one.
But now he can swing a little piece of metal around, too.
So you get that's what it is.
Okay.
You know?
That sounds awful. That sounds just awful.
But we kept it on. Yeah. Anyway.
Boy, how's the acting still good? Performance is still good?
Oh, yeah. That's okay. Yeah. Especially some real huge props and chops to the actors that performed speaking different languages.
Oh yeah,
fucking impressive at that.
Because the most impressive thing about season 1's acting was all the robot characters having to turn on a dime in bizarre situations.
Yeah.
And now you're saying they're adding languages to that acting.
There's you know how people have to learn Elvish to fucking do Lord of the Rings and whatnot.
Nah,
and all
man,
that. Yeah, well,
Agent Smith.
Okay.
Put
anyway, no, there was some impressive.
You infected me with that, with thinking that's funny. I never thought that fucking Elrond or whatever from Lord of the Rings was funny until you one day just started losing it over Agent Smith with the little side curls coming down his fucking face.
They're very much the same character.
And for
both think humans are not great.
Yeah,
that's true.
And I played a couple things, and these are things that this